Hey guys, so in this video, I'll show you how to set up a no-code AI agent team that scrapes any website or social media in seconds, all by just telling it what to do through a quick message on Slack. This agent team can, for example, be used to find and scrape new leads, do competitor analysis, research potential prospects, but the possibilities with this setup are really endless. And in this video, I'll show you how you let your agent scrape any website, do vision-based scraping, and scrape all social media and posts, which can be a bit trickier to do. I'll show you all of this by giving you a demo and a detailed breakdown of a competitor analysis agent that I recently delivered to a client. But this is just one use case. This setup could be used for many other purposes. And the template will be for free, as always, in my free community. If you don't know me yet, I'm Ben. I implement AI automation and AI agents into businesses since 2023. I also run a community with over 500 AI agent builders. And if you're a company and you're looking to be one of the first companies to adopt AI into your business and want me and my team to help you out, you can also book me in for a free call in the description below. So I'll first give you a quick demo of the competitor analysis agent in action. Then I'll give you an overview of the setup for this agent team. And then I'll give you a detailed breakdown of how you can set it up yourself and also how you can let your agent scrape all of these different platforms. Now, of course, this is not the actual agent I delivered to the client. I just recreated it quickly for myself, but it has almost the same functionalities. So the way this agent is set up is basically we have it here inside of our Slack, right? Competitor analysis agent. And basically, we can instruct this agent to research different companies. We can also instruct it which platforms to do the competitor analysis on and also for which time frame. Now, I want to give you a full breakdown of everything it can do. So I will instruct our agent now to do a full competitor analysis, and that's how he will scrape everything, basically. So we can say something like, hi, please do a full competitor analysis on, I'll take the same examples I always take. I come from the CRM space, that's why, on HubSpot and Pipedrive for the last month. Now, this is going to take a while because it's scraping lots of data in the background and basically making reports on each of them. So this is going to take a few minutes. I'm just going to sneak in a quick call to action. I know there's some people who've watched some of my earlier videos but haven't subscribed yet. I understand. I do the same. But it does really help me if you can subscribe and maybe like this video. I do really appreciate it. Anyway, this is going to take a while, so a few minutes. So I'm going to speed up the video now. And now we got it back. I sent it back into another channel. I should have sent it here, but yes, we got it back. So here are the comprehensive research reports for HubSpot and Pipedrive, right? So basically we get multiple documents here. For all the platforms it has done an analysis on, right? So we have news report, we have review analysis, right? So review platforms, we have a report on their blogs, on branding, on LinkedIn, X, YouTube, right? Now you can add more if you want. This company wanted only LinkedIn and X, but I'll also show you if you want how to do this on other social media platforms. So you can see the research reports here. So I'll open them up quickly so you get an idea. So here we have the news, right? So it just checks if there's any interesting, mentions of HubSpot and Pipedrive in the news over the last month, right? Has launched Breeze, a comprehensive AI-powered platform at the Inbound 2024 conference, right? So just some important information a company might need to know about how HubSpot or Pipedrive was in the news. Right, Pipedrive announced the beta launch of Pipedrive Pulse, right, etc. So it just sort of finds some interesting things that might be useful to know about competitors. Then we have reviews, which are basically it looks at these review platforms and identifies any sort of opportunities for our company, meaning any sort of bad reviews or good reviews to see and how you can basically position your brand a little bit better. So you can see overall rating we get, right, 2.9 out of 5. Common issues, customers frequently complain about poor customer support, right? Significant concerns about the cost of the platform, right? Users have issues with account management, including unauthorized reactivation, right? Positive highlights, it's comprehensive CRM and marketing tools, and the same for Pipedrive, right? And then it even extracts one negative and one positive review if you want to get a better idea. Absolutely terrible company to deal with. This system is complicated and purely built to take your money with underhand tactics. Positive review, right? We use HubSpot every day, right? And the same for Pipedrive. And then it even generates some opportunities, right? So for your own brand, meaning given a negative feedback on customer support, we should emphasize our commitment to providing responsive, knowledgeable, and personalized customer service, right? Pricing transparency, which it noticed is some of the bad reviews, account management, user experience. So you can see, you get a nice little overview very quickly of, how sort of the review status of these competitors. Then we have the blog, right? So summary, right? We can see for HubSpot, what are the current themes and the content, right? HubSpot's recent blog post focused on digital marketing strategies, AI integration in marketing, customer journey mapping, SEO optimization, examples, right? It gives you some examples. And the same for Pipedrive. And then again, it gives you some opportunities based on their content and what's working well and what's not. So content gaps, right? Some things they are not covering, thematic opportunities, etc. And then we have branding. Now this is actually visual based scraping. I actually forgot one thing here. Normally you also have a screenshot of their homepage, but with this branding research report, we basically do visual scraping to get an idea of their overall branding and visual identity, right? So the homepage utilizes a soft color palette featuring peach and blue elements, enhancing a friendly and approachable tone, etc. The copy, right? It analyzes the copy and the visual elements. I put this in just to show you how visual scraping works too, because it can be quite powerful, especially with these sort of image or brand things you can't really do with text-based scraping. So visual scraping can be very powerful for certain use cases too. So we can see here also we get opportunities. Then we have LinkedIn, right? LinkedIn research report, the summaries of each company. Again, we get common themes and topics, right? Frequently focus on seasonal themes, company events, and motivational content. They often incorporate a casual and engaging tone, making their posts relatable and shareable, right? And then we can see engagement metrics, right? The average engagement metrics are, 1,100 likes, 44 comments, post frequency and timing every 2 days, right? Uses common hashtags, right? Same for Pipedrive. And then we even have the top performing posts in that time frame, right? Falls about all about pumpkin spice lattes, Gilmore Girls returns and counting down to Q4, right? Got 1,100 likes, and we can also check out the link if we want to here. And we get another one here, right? We get the top post basically, and the same for Pipedrive, right? And then again, opportunities, right? Same idea as before. And then we have the X, very similar, right? Common themes and topics, CTAs, they're using a lot. Get your tickets here, watch the live stream, right? Average likes, 12, post frequency and time, right? Same for Pipedrive. And again, we get the top performing tweets right here, which we can also check out if we want to, etc. And again, opportunities. You get the idea, right? And lastly, we have the same for YouTube, right? Summary of each channel, general channel engagement metrics, etc. It's just a quick idea, but you can see the power of this. And you can see also why it took so long, because it actually took, 15 minutes. Our agent was working for 15 minutes, because you can imagine the amount of data it's scraping in the background and analyzing the data and then creating these competitor analysis reports. But you can see the power of this. Like if a human would do this, and there are many marketing people who do this, they would save a lot of time. And that's why the company was very impressed and happy with this solution. But I want to give you a quick breakdown first of the agent setup, because there are, I think, many other use cases for this. And then I'll give you a detailed breakdown of the agent inside of Relevance AI and the scrapers. Now, I've set this system up inside of Relevance AI and Make.com. If you're new to Relevance AI, it's a no-code AI agent and AI agent team builder. Now, this setup is a little bit more complex if you're completely new to Relevance AI. I do have many other tutorials on Relevance AI on my YouTube channel, which might be a bit simpler. I try to keep it straightforward in this one too. But if this goes over your head, I do have a full beginner's tutorial too on Relevance AI, which I'll link up here. And then I'll use Make.com to scrape some of the platforms we can't scrape inside of Relevance AI. And then we give our agent inside of Relevance AI access to those Make.com automations to get access to that scrape data from other platforms. Now, both platforms you can start out completely for free. They are completely no code. Some people have some doubts about the Relevance AI pricing, because I think the first plan is $200, but don't get fooled by that. You can actually start out with a free plan and you only pay $2 for every 1,000 credits you use. So you can use this quite cheaply and play around with it quite cheaply. I can tell you can do quite a lot with 1,000 credits. So both of these platforms, very cheap and easy to start out. I'll make sure to link them in the description below too. So the way this agent is set up is in the following way. So here we have the trigger for our agent. Here we have our competitor analysis manager agent and his tool. And here we have his sub-agents and their tools. So the way this works in practice is, of course, I trigger it through a Slack message, which I just showed in my demo. That message will be sent to my manager agent, who basically has two responsibilities. As always, delegating to the sub-agents, the tasks to the sub-agents who actually do the work. And second, communicating back to me, right? That's why we've equipped him with one tool, which is the send Slack message tool, which I set up wrongly. As you saw, I sent it back wrong to the wrong Slack channel. But why don't we let our manager agent do all of these tasks? Because in general, we want to limit the amount of responsibilities for our manager agent as much as possible. Because LLMs in general are not good at doing multiple tasks, and this manager agent already has to break down my query and communicate back to me. So basically, we're trying to limit the amount of responsibilities as much as possible by offloading all the other work to sub-agents and tools. And that's really how we want to think about these systems to make them as reliable as possible. So if the query comes in, our competitor analysis manager agent will basically instruct these two sub-agents what to do. So we have two sub-agents here. The first one is the social media scraper, who basically has all the tools available to him to scrape all the social media platforms. So we have the LinkedIn scraper tool, we have the X scraper tool, we have the YouTube scraper tool, and these ones I didn't set up in this specific setup, but you could also give a scrape Instagram, scrape Facebook tool. And basically he does the scraping, writes the reports, and then sends them back to our manager agent. And then we have the second sub-agent, which is the general web scraper agent, who has 4 tools: the public review, website scraper, the blog scraper, news scraper, and a vision-based scraper, right? Which I showed in the example of the branding competitor analysis report. And again, right, he sends it back to the manager agent, who then sends me back all the reports through Slack. That's the way this system is set up. Now, this is just one use case, right, of this setup, but I think there are many other very interesting use cases. I just wrote down a few that I came up with very quickly. The first one that I think is very powerful is use this system for lead scraping, right? You can imagine a setup like this where you scrape leads from websites, from directories, but maybe even more interesting is scraping leads from social media. Because, for example, and I'm going to show you how to do this later too, you can scrape leads from people who engaged or interacted with certain types of posts on different social media channels. So, for example, someone who liked or commented on a post about sales or about on a post of a competitor. We can scrape those leads, and you can even imagine a scenario where we actually personalize outreach, emails or DMs based on the engagement we've seen these leads have with a specific post. But that's just one example. Many use cases for the lead scraping with this setup. You can also imagine finding influencers, right? So companies that try to find influencers that talk about specific topics in a specific space. So we can let, for example, this agent run every day, identify the top posts on a certain topic, the top influencers on those specific topics. And again, we can then the agent could immediately start personalizing outreach to those influencers to try to, get them on board, etc. We can think of content idea generation through this system, of course, too, right? Just giving reports back on competitors, what works for them, people in the space that have well-performing posts, right? We can think of many scenarios. Of course, outreach personalization, as I said before, and researching potential prospects. But again, many more use cases here. I think very interesting setup and lots of possibilities. Anyway, now let me show you in detail how I set this up inside of Relevance AI and Make.com. So here we are in my Relevance AI dashboard. Remember, I put the full template of this agent team inside of my free community too, right? So if you want to check it out in more detail, you have it there. But even if you're going to clone it, you do have to change some things for yourself. So make sure to stick with me. So I'll go over agent by agent. So first I'll start with the competitor analysis manager agent, and then I'll go over the sub agent and their tools. And through that process, I'll show you basically how you can scrape anything. So let's start with the manager agent. So you can see here we have the request that I put in on Slack, right? And we can basically see here what happened in the background. So you can see here in the background, here we got the trigger, right? Please do a full competitor analysis on HubSpot and Pipedrive. And you can see in the background, our agent did the following thing. So first, it got the current date. Now, basically, it does that to sort of identify when is it actually the last month. Now, if you want to know what this tool does, it's basically just a very quick Python script on getting the current date. Now, that's the only piece of code I used, so don't worry if you don't know how to code, but that's all that tool does, right? So that's the first thing it did, and then it delegated it to the general scraper agent. And here we can actually see what it told his sub-agent what to do, right? So you can see here, please perform a full research analysis on HubSpot and Pipedrive for the last month. Include blog posts, review website, news, and branding, right? So basically, you can see this as a prompt, right? So our manager agent basically prompts our sub-agent what to do, right? So, and then you can see here in the background what our general scraper agent did. He also used the get current date. Okay, so actually, I didn't need the get current date in the manager agent because we also have that one in the sub-agent. That's a mistake on my part, but yes, you can see they both have it. So then you can see he used the news research scraper, then the review analysis, then the blog analysis, and the branding and visual analysis, which is the visual scraper, right? And then basically he did all of that, and then wrote the competitor analysis reports, and then you can see this he sends back to our manager agent. Here are the links to the comprehensive research reports for HubSpot and Pipedrive, right? You can see we got all the links here, and that's basically the message he sends back to our manager agent. And then you can see in the background, the next step our manager agent took is to delegate it to the social media scraper agent, and same thing, right? He prompts him what to do, right? Please perform a full research analysis on HubSpot and Pipedrive, include LinkedIn, X, and YouTube, right? Again, in the background, our social media scraper agent does the LinkedIn analysis, the X analysis, and the YouTube analysis, and sends back the reports back to the social media, to the manager agent. And then lastly, you can see our manager agent used the send Slack message tool to send all the research reports back to me through Slack. So that's how it works in the background. Now, let me go over very quickly the manager agent setup, and then I'll go over the other sub-agents and all of their tools step by step. For the Slack integration, Relevance AI actually doesn't have a way to trigger your agent through Slack. So I also set that one up through make.com. I'll show you that Slack trigger if you're interested all the way at the end of this video. Because first I want to show you these agent setups and the scraping setups. And if you're interested, you can check that out at the end. So here we have the manager agent setup, right? Here we just have the name and the agent description, not that important for the manager agent. And here we have the integrations. Now, again, we don't have the Slack integration here, so that's why I did it through Make. And then here we have the core instructions, which is basically the system prompt or the agent prompt. I'm not going to go over it in detail because you can check it out in my free template. And also, I do have a full tutorial also on my YouTube channel about agent prompting and prompting in general in these AI agent and AI automation systems. So if you want to learn more about agent prompting, which is a bit different than normal prompting, check out my video. I'll make sure to link it up here too. So yeah, basically we give it a role, the objective, some context, the SOP, very important in these agent prompts, right? What does it have to do? In which case, right? This is really the most important part usually in those agent prompts. And this, of course, is also very important. The tools and sub-agent section, where we basically gave it, the manager agent, more context on what tools it has, when to use it, and also which sub-agents they have and what they can do, and also when to use them, of course. And I also always add in how to communicate, right? So what do they actually have to send or instruct their sub-agents to do when they get a query? Because our sub-agents can only do the work properly if they get prompted properly. So that is an important part to include too. Then we have the flow builder, right? Flow builder is basically to double down on that SOP, right? We have in the prompt. Sometimes very difficult to write out in language, sort of the flow our manager agent or any agent has to follow. And that's sort of what we can do in an easier way in the flow builder. Now, in this case, it's not an extremely complex SOP, but I did put it in also just for example purposes. So basically we can just, double down on that SOP in this flow builders. You can see here we can put in either instructions or conditions. So instructions is just like this, you have to do. And these conditions are like, if this happens, then do this. If this happens, then do that. So you can see, make sure you have all necessary info: A, companies to research; B, platforms to research; and C, time frame to research. Because our manager agent always needs those 3 data points to actually be able to do his work, right? So that's the first instruction we give him. Make sure you have all of that information before you actually get to work, right? And then we have a condition, which is if user asked for a full competitor analysis, right, then follow this SOP, which is then in that case, of course, he has to use all the sub-agents to do a full competitor analysis report, right? So we have use general scraper and use social media scraper. You can add in those sub-agents by putting in a slash here, and then you can choose your sub-agents. And so that's condition 1. And then the condition 2 is if user asked for analysis on a specific platform. So let's say I only want a research on LinkedIn, then it doesn't have to use the general scraper. So in that case, it follows a different flow. Use the specific research agent for the specific platform to research. So in this case, it would only have to use the social media scraper and only instruct it to do the research on LinkedIn, right? So that's the SOP. More important, probably not that important in this setup because it's quite an easy SOP. But when you have a more difficult one, works very well if you double down on the SOP in this flow builder. Now, then we have these other are not that important. Then we have our tools here. Now, we have the get current date, which is actually not necessary, as I showed you before, because these sub-agents also have this tool. And then we have the send Slack message, right? Now, very, very easy. I can show you very quickly because Relevance AI basically has this Slack, send Slack message natively integrated. So it's very easy. Here we have the message, which our agent fills out, right? So, and this is basically the description, which is a prompt to our manager agent on how to fill out this message, this input, right? So you can really tell it here what to do, right? Add all the links of the research reports to me. Make sure to specify which specific research reports each one. For example, X report, link, etc. So our manager agent fills this message out. We store that in a variable, and then we use the send Slack message module, which is natively integrated into Relevance AI, right? You can just search for Slack, send Slack message, and then you can connect it here, right? Now I send it to the wrong one, right? So I actually had to put it in this one, right? And then we add in the message, which in this case, we put in the variable, which our manager agent fills out, right? And then we'll send that. That's it. Very easy. And then we have the sub-agent section of our manager agent. Now you can see where he has access to his 2 sub-agents, the general scraper and the social media scraper agent. Now here we have some extra configurations, right? So we can either decide if we want to let these sub-agents auto-run or if we want to have human approval. Now that can be useful sometimes also for tools if we actually want to double check before actually taking an action, right? So you can imagine when you send an email, for example, you want to actually check before sending it out. Then you can use these approval required steps, and then it will have to ask for approval before it actually takes action on that tool or sub-agent. Now, in this case, I've put them on auto run, and then we have 2 more extra settings here, which is the prompt for how to use. So basically, this is a prompt, again, for our manager agent on what this sub-agent, the general scraper agent, does and what he will report back to you. So in this case, I prompted it like this. This agent can scrape review websites on competitors, blog posts of competitors, news on competitors, and do branding research. You will report back the research reports to you. So I make very clear what this general scraper agent can do and also which platforms it can actually scrape and also what results to expect back from this general scraper agent. And then we can do one more thing, which is the template for communication. So we can basically put in a template which your manager agent will use when he communicates to the sub-agent. Because again, remember, these sub-agents are basically prompted by the manager agent. So here we can sort of make sure that our manager agent always prompt the sub-agent in the right way. So in this case, for example, I left it empty because it did it right, but you could say something like, please do research on, right? And then we can add in a variable here, companies, right? So in this case, this would be another prompt for your manager agent to know what to fill out in this variable. So the companies I asked to be analyzed, right? So we can put it like that. And please do research on companies. And then we put in another variable on these platforms, right? And then we can use another variable there to instruct our agent the platforms, right, to do research on, right, for, and then time frame. Now, like this, you can imagine we have more control and we make sure that our manager agent always reports all the necessary data to the sub-agent to do his work properly. Because, for example, if our manager agent would only send, please do research on HubSpot, our sub-agent doesn't have enough context to do his work properly. So we can sort of make sure and make our system more reliable through this. So we can do the time frame, right? So just an example, but this can be useful to make your system more reliable. And the same for the social media scraper agent, right? Same principle. So the rest of the settings not that important. Let me now go through the other, first the general web scraper agent and then the social media scraper agent and all their tools, because I want to show you how we can actually scrape all of these platforms. So let me get you through the scraper sub-agents and their tools. So if we go first to the general scraper, now before starting, I want to give you a quick overview, and I don't want to make this a 5-hour tutorial because it will be very quickly. I'm already struggling with making my videos concise. So basically there are 5 types of scraping involved in this, right? So the first one is very easy web scraping, which we can do directly here inside of Relevance AI. Then we have web scraping that we cannot do directly inside of Relevance AI because some websites have some limitations, or Relevance AI doesn't have a native integration of how to scrape this. For example, Google News, we can't scrape directly from Relevance AI, right? Then that's the second one. Then we have the third one, which is visual scraping, which is also not very straightforward to do in Relevance AI, because for vision scraping, we actually need to make screenshots and then give it to a vision model to interpret those screenshots or read those screenshots. Then we have social media scraping. Now for social media scraping, with LinkedIn, we can do it inside of Relevance AI, but basically all other platforms we cannot. And we have a few options, other options to do social media scraping. Now, for social media platforms, in general, they make it a bit hard to scrape because, of course, you can imagine these guys don't want people to scrape loads of their social media posts. So, but there's a few ways around this to do this in a no-code way. And basically, make.com, because we can't do it in Relevance AI. For the review websites, we can do it in Relevance AI because it's just web scraping. For blog scraping, we can also do it inside of Relevance AI because we can also visual scraper, which we also do in make.com because we can't do the screenshots inside of Relevance AI. And then for the social media ones, we have LinkedIn, which we can do. And YouTube, we also do in make.com because we can do it in Relevance AI. And if you want to scrape other social medias, maybe Instagram or Facebook, ways to scrape these social medias, but I'll get into those later. First, I'll show you those general scraper tools, right? So let's start with the review analysis, because we can do that one here inside of Relevance AI, and then I'll go over to the other ones, which are a little bit more complex to set up. So for the review analysis, the way these tools are set up is, first of all, if you don't know yet, here we can actually give a description to our tool, right? Analysis of public, right? I described it wrong. Reviews of companies, right? So this description, by the way, is important because, again, this is like a prompt to your agent on how to use this tool, right? Or what this tool does. So always good to give it a description of what this tool does. Now, for the user inputs, for all of these tools, this is the same, right? So it's important to understand, and it might be a little bit complex. Again, if this goes over your head, make sure to check out that tutorial. Also, you can check out in detail this template, right, if you want. And also, I'm always available on my free community to answer any questions. So if this goes over your head, let me know. So here we have the company names. Now, in this case, we actually want our agent to be able to do company research on multiple companies, right? And that's why we don't use a normal text input. We use a list input, right? And a list input basically allows our agent to fill in multiple different companies here, right? So that's what we instructed our agent to do here. And you can see it did it right? It put HubSpot in one and Pipedrive in another. Now, Why do we do that? It's basically because then we can run this tool on each of these separate competitors. Then we have the second input, which is the number of days to retrieve info for, right? As you saw, I wanted research on the last month. So the amount of days in the past to retrieve reviews from, right? So you see, my agent did it correctly. He put in 30 because we only want 30 days in the past to do this analysis for the last 30 days, right? Again, this is also, again, a prompt for your agent on how to fill this out, right? And then lastly, we have the today's date. And all of these, of course, again, we store in a variable, which we're then going to use in the next steps in our chain, right? So in this case, the first step of this tool is actually finding the public review websites for these competitors, right? So in this case, we're only trying to find the Trustpilot review page, but you can do this for more if you want to. So how do we do that? First, we just do a Google search to actually find the Trustpilot page for these websites. So you can see I have a Google search module set up here, and I added in here a for each. Now, if you don't know what for each is, for each basically makes sure we loop through each of the competitors and make sure that it does the Google search result on each of these variables in the list, right? So not only on one, but because we want multiple, we use the for each because it will make sure it loops over each of the competitors. Now, how does it work? Basically, you have an advanced setting here, and here you can add, right? You can add, enable for each loop, right? Then you go here to the variables, and the for each loop expects an array, right? And these multiple inputs basically stored as an array. So we can add in that variable there. And then once we do that in this search query, where we normally just put in the text input right away, right? This is the Google search query, basically. We put in another variable, which is the for each item, which you will be able to find as soon as you use this for each step. You can find that here, right? The for each item. It basically puts in each of the items when it loops over this specific Google search step. So I can give you a quick example by running the tool. Now you can see we actually get back two results here, right? So we get result 0, which is for HubSpot, and result 1 for Pipedrive, right? So that's what this for each does. It runs it twice on each of the variables, right? And in the next step, we're actually trying to find the Trustpilot page, right? From these Google search results, we actually have to find the Trustpilot page for HubSpot and Pipedrive. So all we do is an AI step, an LLM step here, where we add in the variable of the previous step, right? Steps Google results organic, right? Again, you can find it here, right? And it automatically loop over both of the Google search results, right? And then again, in this part, which is which is find the URL of the Trustpilot page of the company in the Google search results below. Only output the URL, nothing else, no summary, no explanation. We put in the for each item. So that's where we'll put in the Google search results for both of the companies, right? And then we get back, again, two results, right? Answer with the Trustpilot page of HubSpot and of Pipedrive, right? And what we're going to do then is use Relevance AI's built-in web scraper, right? Which we have here, extract website content, to actually scrape the data from these review pages, right? So we do the same principle with the for each, right? So basically we have to use that for each every time we want to run it on each different company. And as we don't know if the user is going to ask for one company research or 3, that's why we use this for each. And then, so we scrape the data here, and you can see here we get the scraped data for each of the companies, huge blob of text, right? And then, of course, we want to actually filter out, make sure that we only do it on the last month, which we instructed it to do, to only take sort of the relevant, to make the opportunities, etc. So that's why we use here another LLM step, right? To only basically clean the data a bit and only extract the last 10 reviews, right? You could also do 20, whatever you want. But I just wanted to clean the data a bit, so that's what I did. So you can see we get two results here for HubSpot, the last 10, and also the overall rating, etc. Right? And then, because we actually don't want to have this report back into one report, we have to combine these two into one, because this is basically an array of strings, right? An array is basically a list, 2 types of strings in this case. But because we want to make one report, we have to put it back into one And that's where we can use a step that's called combine an array of strings. Now, again, if this goes over your head, I can understand. But, you can look at this in detail in the template below. And most of the scrapers are set up in a similar way. So if you understand one, you understand most of them. So here we put in the array to join, right? So in this case, we want to combine these two arrays into one. So we can just put in the variable from this previous step, right, to combine the two. And then we have the separator. How do we want to separate the two inside of our single string? So here we get back 1 with all the reviews of each one. And then we actually want to make a nice report, right? So that's why in this one, long prompt again, right? You can look at it in detail, but you're a professional marketing analyst with expertise in writing competitor analysis reports based on review data from public review websites. So I just instructed how to write, right? What to include in this report, etc. Some examples. And then we get back the research report. Now, in this case, we want to have it in a nice Google Docs, right? So Google Docs accepts HTML. So when we get back this research report, we're going to transform it into an HTML format for Google Docs. So we ask an AI to do that. HTML format is for Google Docs, right? So we get back an HTML here, and then we have to actually put it inside of a Google Docs. Now, unfortunately, we can't still do that inside of Relevance AI. So I use make.com to make this Google Docs. Now, again, if you don't know how to do this, I do have a full tutorial also on how to integrate make.com with Relevance AI and give your agent basically access to these make.com automations. If you're completely new to make.com, make sure to check that one out. I'll make sure to link it here on top too. But basically what we can do here is, here we have this particular automation that creates our Google Docs for these reviews, right? So all we have, very simple, is a custom webhook. And you can see basically custom webhook as our agent or our tool will send data to this custom webhook, and then we can integrate different tools here in make.com with that data. And then with this webhook response, we can send that data back. So all we're doing here is we've set up a custom webhook, which you do right here, right? Custom webhook. If you create it, you will get here, you can see it. You get a webhook. You can copy that. You put an API step here. You use the method post. Then you put in the URL of that webhook. You just copied. You put it in here. And then here in the URL params, you can decide which information you want to send over. Right, so here's the title of the information you want to send over, and here's the here are the names of the variables you want to send over, and here's the data you want to send over. So in this case, I want the title for my Google Docs to be reviews report, and then this is the variable of the date, right? So it will say reviews report of 24th of September, right? And here's the report, right, which is the HTML formatted doc, right, which I put in here. Now, we can run it quickly so you see what happens. So if we run it here and I run this step, you can see it now got triggered, right? And you can see here we got, this is the information that was sent to this webhook, right? The report and the title, right? And then we use create a Google Docs module here built into make.com to create a Google Docs. Right, and inside of this module, you can see I put in the title, the variable which we received from the webhook, and the report in the content, which is the HTML competitor analysis report. And then what we do is the Google Docs will be generated, and then we can send that Google Docs back to our tool and to our agent through a webhook response. Right, this webhook response, as you can see, all we put in here is basically the link of the Google Docs. Right, so as soon as it's generated, it will send back that Google Links doc. And you can see then here, we get that back. And then we have our Google Docs, right? So that's how it works. Again, if this goes too fast, make sure to check out my other tutorial. So this is the way this one is set up. Now, this one is a bit easier because we can scrape inside of Relevance AI, these websites, right? Now, so this is a very similar setup for the blog. I'll go through it very quickly, but because also for a blog, we can just use a normal web scraper. We use Relevance AI, so you can see same user inputs for the blog. Then we have the Google search step to find the blog of the different competitors. Again, we use 4 each, same system, right? Then we have the AI step to find the URL of the blog for each of the companies. Then we scrape the blog. Then we extract the last 15 blog posts to clean it up a bit. Then we combine both of the results from HubSpot or from the different competitors into one, right? Then here we write the research report, make sure that we only write it on the time frame we're looking for. And again, we HTML format the doc and we do the same thing, right? We send it to make.com to generate the report, right? As I just showed you. So that's it for the blog. Very similar process, right? Then we can go to Google News, right? So Google News is little bit different because Google News, we can't actually scrape directly from inside Relevance AI. So in this case, the setup is similar, but instead of scraping inside of Relevance AI, we're actually scraping this inside of make.com because make.com basically gives us way more possibilities to scrape than inside of Relevance AI. So basically what we do here, user inputs, again, are the same, right? So what we're going to do is we're going to send over these competitors or these names right away into a make.com automation where we're actually going to scrape the Google News. So you can see I put in the list here, which includes all the different competitors, right? So we send that information to our make.com automation. I'm going to show you right now. News. And here you can see we have the automation to scrape Google News. So I'm going to show you quickly how this works. So we're going to run it quickly. So this one is a little bit more complex, as you can see. But what we do here, basically we send over the two names, right? You can see HubSpot and Pipedrive. And this module is the one that actually scrapes the data from Google News, right? But because we get one variable here back with both of the competitors, we actually have to separate them, right? And make them into two, and then run this module. As you can see, it ran it on both of the competitors to do a Google search analysis on both, right? So that's why we're using a text parser here, and that's basically what a text parser does. It separates these different variables out of one, right? So if you're completely new to this, I'm happy to also do a make.com full tutorial. But basically, this is what this text parser does, and you do that through writing this pattern. Right now, this is what they call regular expression, and this might seem a little bit complex. I don't really understand it either, but ChatGPT is amazing at it. So if that's always what I do. If you just use this variable and say, hey, I want to separate these into two variables in make.com with the text parser, then ChatGPT is very good at giving you this pattern, right? And this pattern basically separates those two, right? So that's what this module does. And then I use Dumpling AI, which is a great little tool for scraping, right, inside of make.com. I really like Dumpling AI because basically allows us to do lots of different types of scraping in a very easy, straightforward way. There's many possibilities to do scraping, but many of them are very complex, and Dumpling AI has basically taken most of the main use cases and make it really easy to scrape, right? So highly recommend it. I also have a link in the description below. So basically, you can get YouTube transcripts, you can do URLs, you can do screenshot URLs, you can do search Google, which you can do in Relevance AI too. You can search Google Maps, for example, to scrape leads from Google Maps. We can do Google News. Lots of possibilities here, but in this case, we do search Google News, right? So you can see how this module is set up, and we basically put in the variable which we got out of this one, which is basically the two different variables of the names of the companies, right? So the search query for the Google News is basically just HubSpot, right? So you can see here what data we get back, which is huge information from Google News on HubSpot news articles, right? You can see the title, the link, the snippet. Now, if we want, we can even start scraping these links in next steps if we want. In this case, I didn't do it because we already have some information in the snippet and in the title. So to identify new things they're doing, basically. But you can see we get back all of that information. He ran it twice because it's both for HubSpot and Pipedrive, right? So we get back all of this information. And then we have two text aggregators here. Now, what do these modules do? Without going too much in detail, because again, I don't want to make this a 6-hour tutorial, and it will become one very quickly. What these do is basically they clean up the data and give us back one result, because you can see we get two here. It first of all cleans up this data in this first step. So you can see the way I set this up is I only want the title, the link, the snippet, and the date. I don't want all that other information I get back, which is not relevant to us, right? Source, etc., image URL. We don't need that. So basically what this step does is it cleans that up, right? So I just put in the variables of the data I actually want, right? And that's also the nice thing of Dumpling, right? It already organizes it in sort of these different sections for you, right? So that's what this step does. Again, you can look at it in detail in the template. And then in the second step, because here we still get it, all these, you can see it's more clean, right? We have the title, the link, the snippet, and the date. And then in this next step, it will basically put all of that information together into one big text, so we can actually send it back to our tool inside of Relevance AI. So that's what we do here with the webhook response, right? We send that back, the output of this last text aggregator model. So we have a clean overview of all the scraped Google News items. Now, that information is then sent back to Relevance AI, right? As you can see here, right? So here we have all the scraped news items. And then, of course, we want to actually filter for the dates, right? Because we only want to see it about the last month in this case. And we also want to get a nice report, right? So again, here we do that in this long prompt, right? Only extract relevant and interesting business news from competitor companies, right? So identify relevant news, filter irrelevant mention, only extract relevant news from the last 30 days, right? This is the variable today's date is, right? So that's what it does here, right? Generates, only takes out the most important or the relevant data, writes a little report, and then again, we do the same as before, right? We write in HTML, we write in the HTML, and then create a Google Docs, and then we get the Google Docs back with the report, right? So that's how it works. So that's it for the news. Now, for the visual scraper, it's a very similar setup because we can actually also use Dumpling AI. Because for visual scraping, what we need to do in this case, we want to do a visual branding analysis on the competitor's homepage in this example. But for visual scraping in general, I think very interesting for all these sort of image-based scraping you want to do. You actually have to make a screenshot, right? And then feed that to a vision-based LLM model to interpret that screenshot and do the analysis you want it to do. Now, again, we can't take a screenshot inside of Relevance AI. So what we're doing is, again, we're using make.com and specifically Dumpling AI, which also has a module to make a screenshot. So I'm going to show you this. First, of course, we need to get the company's homepage. So we use the Google search with homepage, again, for each, right? We extract the URL of the homepage. We combine the array of strings because here we get 2 URLs back to actually be able to send it to the API, to our make.com automation. So here we send over the websites. I'm going to show you visual. So here we have the visual scraper, right? I'm going to run it quickly so we can see it in action. You can see it was triggered, right? So in this case, we send over the 2 websites. Now, again, we have to separate that. That's why we use the text parser to separate those 2 websites. And then we run this screenshot URL twice for each of the website. So this Dumpling AI module takes a screenshot. And then what we do here in the next step is an OpenAI step. We can also do this inside of Relevance if we want, but in this case, I did it in Make. We basically feed it those screenshots that this module took and to analyze the screenshots and write the report, right? So I can show you. This is the Whisper. Oh no, sorry, not the Whisper model. This is just the GPT-4o module that can also read images, right? So we just add in the image here. You can see from the previous step, the screenshot URL, and then we have a prompt basically defining how to write the research report and what to analyze from these screenshots. So we get the report back. Now again, we get 2 reports back. So we want to clean up the data and put it out in one. We send that back to the webhook here. And so we get it back inside of Relevance AI. So you can see here we get it back, the research report on the home pages. And then again, what we do is we want to Google Docs, right? So we HTML format it and make a Google Docs. Now you might be wondering, why am I doing this part inside of Relevance AI, not directly in make.com? You can also do this directly in make.com, right? You just add in another Google Docs module here to make it right away and then send it back. I just did it because for the client, I actually send the information to another platform instead of Google Docs, right? So that's it for visual scraping. I think there's some interesting use cases. Now let me get to social media scraping. Now for social media, let me first show you LinkedIn, because LinkedIn we can actually do inside of Relevance AI, and then I'll show you X and YouTube. And through that process, you also understand if you want to do it on its Instagram or Facebook. So LinkedIn, again, very similar setup, right? Same user inputs, right? Company names, number of days, today's date, right? Then in this case, we do a for each with the Google search on finding their LinkedIn, right? So we do Google search on LinkedIn, right? Then in the AI step, we identify the URL of the LinkedIn of the company, right? Then we use the actual built-in LinkedIn scraper from Relevance AI, right? So that's why we don't need make.com in this case, because they have it right in here, right? If you don't know, you could just go here, LinkedIn, get a LinkedIn profile and post, right? So we can scrape the posts, which I do here in a for each way again, right? Because we want it on both the companies. Now I actually I have to correct myself. This is the second part. I used a little bit of code to actually clean that data up a little bit, because we get lots of scraped data back from LinkedIn. So this basically does that. It scrapes, it cleans that data up a little bit, and it also puts it inside of one. Instead of an array of strings, it puts it into one, right? You don't have to change this. It's already set up for you. And then, of course, you want to make the research report based on the LinkedIn results. Long prompt again, right, on how to do that and what to extract, what not to extract. And that's it. And then, of course, we're going to do the HTML to make the Google Docs, and same process again, right? Now, that's it for LinkedIn, a little bit easier. Now, for the other platforms, it's a little bit harder, right? Because in general, these social media platforms, they make it a little bit tricky to scrape, right? So there's a few options, and the options are mostly available in make.com, right? So Base Your Media, there are basically three main tools in make.com, which make it easy for us to scrape social media platforms. So the first one, I'll go over them all three very quickly, is Phantom Buster, which I specifically used in this one, which is a little bit more expensive, but works quite well. Phantom Buster basically allows us, here you can see, to scrape LinkedIn, Google, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, etc. Right? So, and you can scrape quite some interesting things, right? You can scrape leads from LinkedIn company posts, right? We can also even scrape leads, right, from people that engaged with certain posts, which I think can be very interesting for lead prospecting. But yes, there's quite some possibilities here with Phantom Buster, which I'm going to show you in detail, because mine is set up. I actually set up with Phantom Buster because the company already used Phantom Buster. There are two other ways to scrape easily social media, which is either through Appify. Appify is basically a marketplace where anyone can post their own APIs and make them available to other people. Now, it's quite easy to set up these Appify APIs inside of Make, and you can see there's quite some interesting ones available, not only for social media, but I think especially useful for social media. So you can see Instagram profile scraper, right? Instagram post scraper, so we can really scrape anything. Now, the downside of this is a little bit the pricing. It's very unclear, right? Because you basically pay depending on which one you use. Sometimes you pay a subscription and a usage-based, and sometimes it gets a little bit unclear how much this actually costs. As you can see here, we have a monthly price, but also we're paying for each different API separately for usage costs. So that's a little bit the downside. But if you really want to scrape these social media, this is one of the easiest ways to do it, right? And there's lots of very interesting scrapers available. And Rapid API is a very similar one. Similar concept, right? You can see also here, if you type in Instagram, right? You have developers who can basically post their own APIs here to make it easier for you to get access to their APIs, use them for these things. So Instagram Scraper API, etc. So lots of different ones available here. Definitely interesting to check out. Now, Appify actually has a very easy way to integrate this inside of make.com. Rapid API, not so straightforward. So Appify might be a little bit easier. But in this case, I use Phantom Buster. I think it's a lot clearer in terms of the pricing. And in this case, the company I built this for already used Phantom Buster. That's why I used these guys. If you guys want to see me do a tutorial on Appify or Rapid API, let me know in the comments and I'll do that after. But let me show you how I set this up with Phantom Buster, specifically for the X scraping. So same setup again, right? And then we have find Twitter profiles, right? In this case, we're doing a Google search result for the X account, right? So we're trying to find the X accounts, and then I'm going to run that tool so you can see how this works too. We go to X, get X posts. Now I can see it is a little bit of a more complex setup, but I'm gonna show you. So let me run it. So I've run it, right? And you can see here we found the X accounts of both of the platforms. Then our make.com got triggered here, and we send over those links, right? The HubSpot X link and the Pipedrive. Then again, what we do is we separate these two, right? So we have the two different links, and then what we do is we actually have to add it to a Google Sheets, right? Because the way Phantom Buster works is we basically build a tool first inside of Phantom Buster. I can show you here. We have the tweet extractor. So first we have to set up a tool, right? So I'm going to show you quickly. So you could just pick one here from your solutions, what kind of scraper you want, right? And once you select one, you basically end up at a screen like this, where we can do the configurations for our scraper. So first of all, here we can decide if we want to scrape from a URL, my list, etc. So in this case, what I did is I let it scrape from a Google Docs. So as you can see, you can basically put in, and now it's twice, of course, but you can basically put in the links there, and then the Phantom Buster tool is going to scrape the accounts from this Google Sheet, right? So in this case, I put it on a Google Sheet because what I do here is I add those data points, those two variables, right? The two accounts, X accounts, I put them on that Google Sheet here. And then I run automatically that Phantom Buster. You can also run it manually from here, but we want to do it automatically. So that's why I add those into the sheet, and then I launch this tool to basically start scraping the ones in that sheet. If it doesn't make sense, let me know. But yes, then we can connect. We have to connect it to Twitter, right? You can just click there and basically it gets your cookie, right? So important with these things, right? It's actually gonna go do this from your account, right? So as Twitter and X and some of these platforms have limitations and they don't want people to mass scrape these social media platforms, you have to be a little bit careful and limit this amount of scraping to a certain amount and to a certain amount of times per day. So what I do is maximum 3 times a day, and it seems to be fine. And also don't try to extract hundreds of posts, right? Because, red flags will go up inside of these social media platforms. Yeah, here we can, for example, put in some configurations like how many posts to extract per company, etc. Right, and that's it. And then we can add in inside of make.com. They have a Phantom Buster there, and there you can basically use, once you've created a Phantom, how they call it, right? You can say launch a Phantom, right? And then you just select your Phantom, as you can see here, untitled tweet extractor, right? And basically that's all we do here, right? Because we've added in those links here to the Google Sheet. So this Phantom will basically pull those from the sheet, right? And start running it on those two. And then what we do is we do a little bit of a sleep module here, because this Phantom takes a little bit, right? It takes a little bit of time to scrape. So if we don't use this sleep module, it basically here in get an output, that's where we sort of download the output. If we do that right away, it won't have a result back yet. So that's why we put a little bit of a sleep module. 40 seconds is way too long. Probably I'll only need 10, 15 or 20 seconds, right? And then what we do is we use another Phantom Buster module, which is get an output, right? And you can see here, we get an output, right? Now, this is not a very nice output. So, okay, sorry. So we have to use two models here. We have to get an output and then download a result, right? That's how we do it. So here we get okay, yes. So we need a container ID to actually download a result. And here's and then we feed that into the next step, which is actually downloading the results, right? So here we put in the container ID. And then we actually get back a JSON, right? So as you can see, this is not any data we can work. We use another two modules, which is a parse JSON, right? So we add that data there, right? And as you can see, we get back the data finally here in this. Look at it in detail, check out the template. But here we clean it up, we get all the tweets back. Then we put them all together inside of one text here in the array aggregator, and then we send it back to the webhook, right? So here we can see we get all the tweets. So if we go back to our tool here, you can see we get it here. We get it in a sort of table format. We get all the tweets with the like count, the tweet date, and the tweet link, right? And then again, as always, we create the research report, we make the Google Docs, and that's it. So yes, little bit of a setup, but very powerful use cases. So I think it's worth exploring. So let me get back, and then we have one more thing, last one, and then I'll show you quickly the Slack integration too, is the YouTube one. Now, for YouTube, we can scrape two things. We can scrape a YouTube channel, and we can scrape YouTube transcripts. Now, Dumpling AI, we can also scrape YouTube transcripts. I know there's some people who had some issues with my previous YouTube transcript scraper, which was from Inside Relevance AI. That one stopped working. So if you want to know how to do YouTube transcription scraping, you can do it with Dumpling AI too. Now, for this case, I only scraped the Google channels. You can also scrape both if you want, right? You can just scrape the channels, get all the links, and then scrape the YouTube transcripts. But in this case, I only did the channels. So same system again, right? Finding the YouTube channel link, right? That's it. That's what I'm doing here. Combining the array of strings, right? Combining both of the YouTube URLs of both of the companies into one. Send it over to Make. And why? Because to scrape a YouTube channel page, it's not that straightforward. We can't use a normal web scraper. So in this case, we use get YouTube videos here. We use what's called an RSS, right? Feed items. Now, what is RSS? RSS stands for really simple syndication. It's basically some websites allow for this to sort of automatically pull standardized data back from these websites. And usually it's sort of done by these websites that have constant updates, like for example news websites or YouTube in this case, podcasts, etc. So not only interesting for YouTube but also for other channels. So the way this works, again, I'm going to show you through an example. So we're going to run this tool. As you can see, that went quite quick. So again, right, we get the YouTube links here, which we gathered inside of Relevance AI. Right here, we separate the two links. Then we feed it into the RSS module. Very easy, right? You can just add it in here, right? Watch our RSS feed. Oh, sorry, it's retrieve RSS feeds items, right? And then it automatically sort of brings us that data back in a structured way already, right? You can see the title of their last YouTube video, right? The URL, the date created, images, categories, source, etc., right? And then if we want, we can even start scraping YouTube transcripts from each of these videos if we want to know in depth what happened there, right? We could just use a Dumpling AI module there to get the transcript, get YouTube transcripts, right? And then we can exactly use that in an AI step to whatever. But yes, you get the idea. So here we get back all of the last sort of videos, uploads from both of these companies. Then again, we're going to clean this data up, right? We don't need everything. So in this case, you can see I only want the channel author, the title, date uploaded, the URL, and the view count, right? And then we get that back cleaner, right? You can see here one example, right? Cleaner data, right? And then we put it all together into one text, as you can see, and then we send it back to our webhook. And we get it back inside of Relevance AI. And again, we write the research report, we HTML format it and make it a Google Doc, right? That's how it works. And then we get the Google Doc back. So that's it. Very long one, sorry. Now let me very quickly show you how you set up the Slack trigger, which is a little bit of a hassle and some people don't know. So basically we can go into Make, look up Slack. So here we have the Slack integration. That looks quite simple, but it's actually a little bit of a hassle to set up. I'll actually create a new one so I can show you step by step how you do this. So the problem with Slack is we actually do have a Slack integration here, but it won't trigger automatically when we send a new message. So we actually have to start working with the Slack API. Now, it's a little bit of a setup, but I'll take you step by step on how to do this right now. So basically, all we have to do is set up a webhook here, right? Custom webhook. We can call it whatever we want, right? We click save. Then we get a webhook here, right? Then we go to api.slack.com, right? And then we can create a new app. We can click on from scratch. We can call it whatever we want. Example, app, relevance, right? Then we pick our workspace. We create app. Then we go to zero auth and permissions here. And there we go to redirect URLs. And you'll have to add in 2 redirect URLs. I'll make sure to add them in my templates too. So the first one is this one. We click on add. Then we add another one, which is the same, but we're just with 3. We click on add. We click save URLs. Right, then we go to event subscriptions. Here we toggle on. And here we have to put in the make.com webhook URL. Right, so we could copy this one. We put it in here. Now it will give us an error, which is normal, right? Because it basically needs a webhook response. So what we do here is we add in a webhook response, right? In the body, we can add the challenge variable. And then in advanced settings, we add in one custom header, which is content type text/plain, right? Now we run it once. We can go back to Slack and retry, and you can see now it's verified because it received the webhook response. Now we go to subscribe to bot events. Here basically we can decide when to trigger inside of Slack. So we can do it either through a bot, like when we tag with an @ or a specific application. But in this case, we're just going to do it by sending a message to a channel. So you can just type in channel, and here channels, message channel. A message was posted to a channel, right? So we select that one. We go to save changes. And then all we have to do is go here on install app. We can click on install, click allow. And now it's installed. Now all we have to do is go back to Slack, right? Select the channel you want your bot to be triggered by, or your Relevance AI agent. You go to edit settings, and here you go to integrations, and here you can add the apps, right? So here you have to add in the app you just created. Now, what I've noticed is this takes actually a little bit of time before it starts appearing here. So it won't appear for me right now. But you can see here, I have an old one, demo app, that appears here, and then you can just add it here. And then as soon as you send a message to that channel, it will be triggered. Right now, of course, now we still have to integrate it, once you've done that, to the Relevance AI agent. Now, how do you do that? You can basically just delete this webhook response, right? And we add in an HTTP module where we're gonna make an API call to the Relevance AI agent, right? So here we select make a request. Again, I have another video that explains this in a little bit more detail if this goes too fast for you. But basically what we do here is we go to the agent profile, right? And in the agent profile, you'll find one setting here that's called API. Here we can copy the endpoint. We go back to make, we put that in the URL. For the methods, we use post. And then we have to add in 2 headers. The first one, the name will be content type, right? And the value will be application/JSON. And the second one will be authorization, which is our authorization key or API key. And here you have to paste in your API key, which you can find right here. You can generate it. You copy that one and you paste it in here. And then all you do is select here raw. You select application JSON, and here you have to put in the request content, which you can also find here, the request body, which is basically the message you're going to send to your agent, right? So you paste that in here, and here you'll see hello, right? That's basically the message you're going to send to your agent. So you can take that hello away, and that's where you want to put in the variable of the text message you're going to send on Slack. Now, as I have not run this webhook yet, I won't have access to this variable yet, right? So as soon as you have your demo installed in your Slack, do a test, make sure you run it here, do a test, and then you'll find that you get your message variable available here. You add that one there, and then you're all good. Then you're basically sending that message to your agent whenever you send it inside of the Slack. Now, if you're still watching, sorry for the long one again. I really have to learn how to make it more concise. But thank you so much for watching. If you're still watching, and I'd highly appreciate it if you can like and subscribe and maybe leave a comment if you haven't already. Thank you so much, and I'll see you in the next one.